Hello, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. We've got Madam Web, her best decks, a full guide. But before we get to this brand new card, we should do a last chance review for Silver Sable. Silver Sable, the 1/1 that is an on reveal of Steel 2 power from the top card of your opponent's deck, is one of the best 1-drops in the game. It's comparable to Nico Minoru in terms of both its win rate and cube rate. It's comparable to White Widow and Cassandra Nova. This is a great card that is 100% worth owning. However, if your resources are very limited, it is a very replaceable card. It's a 1-drop, and a lot of decks don't run 1-drops. Unless you absolutely love Bounce, you don't totally need this card. In Bounce, this is a must-have. This is the premier Bounce 1-drop. This Hood Nico will be in fundamentally almost every Bounce deck going forward, while Silver Sable will be a central piece of these lists. However, in other decks, she's a very good 1-drop that is a fully functionally replaceable card. So if you feel like you have to have her, you must be a Bounce aficionado. She's pretty good in like affliction style decks, but she's just still not a requirement. She's not something you need for those decks. She is, in my opinion, fairly similar to Speed in quality, where I think Speed is the best 3-drop in the game right now in terms of just having a generically good 3-drop in your deck, because it's a very powerful card that gets a lot of power. Silver Sable works much the same way. That best in slot card can be game changing, like Nocturne, where you must have it because it becomes such a central part of the game, or it can just be a nice card that's wholly replaceable, like the aforementioned Speed. I think Silver Sable is much more like Speed than like Nocturne. It's entirely possible I'm wrong given the really great win rate of the card right now. But for now, I suggest this for people who have enough resources and are just choosing good cards to get versus those who are still trying to catch up and make sure that they're able to make coherent, very good decks. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. If you are looking at Silver Sable, this is the kind of deck you're looking for. FaThorNewman's deck, I called this Bouncing Dad because, get it, FaThorNewman. I really, really like this list. I think it's very powerful. I'd personally make a change or two to it, but it is basically, I'd add Hood. I'd probably add Hood over Kate Bishop. That's my change. Just in case you're wondering, like, what change would you make? I would add Hood because I hate playing Bounce without Hood. I think Hood's one of the best cards. If you have Nico, Falcon, and Beast, Hood is, to me, a must-have card. But this list is insanely strong. It does an absolute ton to win games. It is one of the best decks in the meta. There are various versions of this. Check recent videos we've done if you'd like to see more Silver Sable bounce decks. I hit Infinite with one. That was yesterday evening's video. Yesterday I had 2 videos. So if you're interested in that, please do check it out. All right, so you can find FaThorNewman on Twitch or YouTube at FaThorNewman. For this, Werewolf or Monkey can be Sage. You do need one of those 2 cards. Sasquatch, and this is a weird change, can actually be Bast without losing 2 very much, but at that point, please add Hood. Kitty, Nico can be Ham or Hood. Kate can be Widow or a different 1-drop, White Widow or a different 1-drop, and Black Swan is needed for this very 1-heavy version of Bounce. There's decks that run Bounce that don't run Black Swan, but if you're going to run 4 1s, you probably do need that Swan. Alright, so this is both a meta-relevant and strong deck. Newman's stats with this were absolutely incredible, so please do check it out. Turn 1, you want Silver Sable over Kitty. Turn 2 is Kate Bishop or 1s pending hand space. If you don't have a bounce card, feel free to just drop Kate so that you can make sure you can trigger some Werewolf, assuming that you can draw some extra cards at that point. Turn 3, you would like Werewolf or Bishop. I generally prioritize Werewolf first, but there are location suites that basically say Werewolf is going to be bad and Bishop is going to be really good, so keep that in mind. So, turn 4, Werewolf or Bishop as well, plus a 1, or you can do your first bounce card if you have seen both of them. Turn 5 is meant to be Falcon and Swan, or Falcon and Beast, as the case may be, and then, anywhere around turn 4 or 5, if you can end up dropping Sasquatch, sometimes you do, depending on how things are going. If you do get a good, bounce on turn 4, and you end up playing like a few cards on turn 5. Let's say you end up playing Black Swan and then 2 other cards. You'll end up having a 3-cost Sasquatch along with a 3-cost Monkey, which is just the goal at the end. But if you end up playing a wider turn 4 where you end up playing 3 or 4 cards, ideally 4 cards, if you end up playing a bunch of 1-drops, and then you're going to go Falcon and Swan, you can end up going Swan and Sasquatch sometimes, or Falcon and Sasquatch sometimes, as the case may be, pending board space, especially against junk. Sasquatch is just sort of a card that gets cheap and fits in where it does. Turn 6 is meant to be Hit Monkey and a whole bunch of ones, ideally making Bishop good, ideally leaving Werewolf in the ideal spot, and winning the game off the back of these extremely powerful cards. That's how you play this list. Black Silver Sable is a replaceable card here. She's a replaceable card in everything, but she is best in slot. So you need to determine how much best in slot means for you as you determine whether to buy Silver Sable or not. And before we go forward, I'm going to ask you to hit that sub button, like, and comment. Right below, you don't have to leave this channel, is the little red button that says subscribe. Just hit it right now. We're trying to hit 15,000 subs, and we need your help to get there. We bring you more top-notch Marvel Snap content than absolutely anyone else in the world. We do 7 days a week of videos. This week we're doing at least 9 videos. Yesterday we covered the decks I used to hit Infinite. I had a 93% win rate in the 90s, so you can steal that deck from yesterday's video. And the yesterday morning video was the top 5 decks of last season, along with 5 decks I expect to be at the top of the meta this coming season. We do an absolute insane amount of content, and if you're willing to help us achieve our goals and get the best decks in Marvel Snap, hit that sub button. And if you're willing to help us fight the algorithm, a like and a comment go a long way. Subscribing and commenting also helps you win a season pass. We give away more season passes than anyone in this entire community. If you're willing to, all you have to do is every video I ask you to ask a question at some point. You answer that question at whatever point it is in the video, and as long as you're subbed, you're entered to win a season pass. 1 video per week comes with a season pass. We give away 10 season passes at the beginning of the season as well as that, so we give away an absolute ton. Please check it out if you're interested. All right, our spotlight card for the week is Madame Web. Madame Web is a 2/1. She was originally data mined as a 2/3, at which point I think she would have been the best card in the game. As a 2/1, I'm much less convinced. Turns out numbers really matter in Marvel Snap, and a -2 in terms of power is a big deal. Her ability is ongoing. You can move one of your other cards away from here each turn. The TLDR is, if move is ever going to be meta, this is the card that's going to make move meta. This should be insane with move. It should be a guaranteed 1 move just for playing a card in a specific location. You can use a card like Ghost Spider or Iron Fist or Doctor Strange or whatever move card to put a card into the lane, giving you 1 move, and then she's an auto 2nd move, and that's even better if you've got a Hercules in another spot. That seems great. But in addition, there's a possibility, not necessarily a likelihood, that she comes up in other decks, things like Wiccan decks, where you're just playing a lot of cards and you would like to reorganize the board late, make your opponent ask questions about where power is going to be. That seems like a powerful thing to do as well with this card. I personally believe Madame Web is going to be excellent, but I'm not sure. Anytime an effect is this new and the power or cost is this confusing, I think of War Machine or Phastos, both cards that a lot of the people in the meta, myself for Phastos, everyone else for War Machine, thought were going to be absolutely incredible and did not land at all. There's a possibility Madame Web is that. My gut, however, says that this is going to be an extremely strong card, such that I am planning on buying this lovely rare variant that will be in the shop the day after you open for her. The natural Madame Web is nice, but I really do like this all red version that feels a little bit like Scarlet Witch, but is still pretty cool. In addition, you can also get the Spotlight Cash version of Madame Web, should you be so inclined and swimming in caches. I think that both of these are too similar, so I'm not really interested in this version. That is a very cool Alioth, however, Dragon Alioth. Almost looks like a zoomed in version of the one that you can get from whatever album that is. And then we have Silk as the 3rd spotlight card. This is a decent Silk variant, but Silk is a card without a home. We will review both Alioth and Silk later this video. Let's instead go to never mind, I should have deleted that one. Let's instead go to the synergies for Madame Web. So this is the card Move has been waiting for. Again, if Move is ever going to be meta, it's this card and Naranya next week. Dagger, Vulture, Torch are obviously great here, and Multiple Man has a possibility. Multiple Man's a little worse because Multiple Man is very quickly going to clog that lane. Kraven and Hercules seem to like this. You can push a bunch of cards onto Kraven, which seems really strong. You can also push cards onto Kraven and have Hercules there, and then push them right off for a real chance at growing huge. Other cards that would like this would be Angela or Elsa Bloodstone. Those are fine. We're not really concerned with those today, though. I honestly don't expect that to be especially good with Thena in the meta. Were Thena like heavily nerfed, I could see that being good, but for the time being, I don't think that's going to be where the meta goes. every card can sort of benefit from moving power around. Think of just the 3-power Jeff, where your opponent has to try and figure out where that 3 power is going to be at the end of the game and how frustrating that can be. Every card in Madam Web's lane offers that benefit. So the question is this going to just be generically good enough to go in decks? I think the 2-1 stat line is going to keep it out of decks. I reserve the right to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is just a great card that goes in a ton of decks. But my feeling is the 2-1 stat line keeps this out of decks that aren't explicitly taking advantage of her move in terms of scaling up power. We're going to do a full deck guide for what I think is going to be the best move deck that features Madam Web, and then we're going to look at some other pretty cool brews from some of our favorite people. Excuse me, I had a hiccup. That was coming out no matter what. All right, Sizer is the #1 player in the July season and the December season. One of the best players in the world. He was #2 about 3 seasons ago with this exact list. There was never a last card for this list. He tried Nico, he tried Heimdall, he tried Alioth, and the last card never was settled. Well, I think Madam Web makes the last card for this list easy, considering it runs Human Torch, it runs Vulture, and it runs Dagger. It gives you the exact card you need in order to win games. So if you can Iron Fist a card into Madam Web, push that back, and then beast it, like, you're just going to town in terms of power. This gets better when Scorn, I believe it's Scorn, no, it's not Scorn, I always forget the name. There's a 2-1 bounce card coming next month that will clearly go in this list, probably over Sage. I think that this card is incredible in this list. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's going to be insanely strong. Hercules seems like it's going to, just like doubling up the power of the move in this list, seems like it's going to be through the roof. You can move a card out of the Madam Web lane and then freaking Shadow King that lane, which is just insanely hilarious. You can put the power where you need it to make yourself a big enough Sage to win anything. I just think that this list is going to be through the roof powerful. We already know that this can win in the hands of a top player. Sizer was again #2 on the Infinite Leaderboard, playing almost entirely this list for a season. All right, you can find Sizer playing lists like this at twitch.tv/Sizer2654. For this list, if you don't have Hercules, that can be Heimdall. You do need Sage and Ghost Spider for now. At least I believe you need Sage and Ghost Spider for now. However, caveat for that. Ghost Spider is not a card you need to spend Spotlight keys on. You can buy Ghost Spider right now for $15. Yes, you'll still eventually need to open it, but that could be just a random open. There is the bundle in the shop basically all season for Ghost Spider, which you can buy for $15. You get access to the cards. You can put it in decks. So the only card you really need to make this work, I think, is Sage. I think Hercules is better than Heimdall for this, but I bet you Heimdall works more or less fine. Our question is, do we think that Madam Web is going to find homes in decks that aren't built around these move cards? Do we think there's going to be some like mini move package like there was for a little bit with Dagger, Ghost Spider, and Iron Fist? Or is this going to be a strictly move based card? Move/move bound/Phoenix Force, the move family of stuff. My guess is the move family of stuff, but I'm curious to hear what you think. Answer in the comments to help try and win a season pass. All right. Sizer, again, #1 player. For this, you set up a move if you don't have Madam Web. You're fine playing Iron Fist here. Basically, that's the only way to set up a move on one, but you're fine doing that. Turn 2, if you didn't play Iron Fist, you'd really like to get Madam Web down. Madam Web offers a lot of power. They can try and clog that Madam Web lane, but guess what? You can solve that more or less by Madam Web's own ability. Answers to Madam Web would be a Rogue or a Red Guardian or an Enchantress. So hopefully you can get a move or two off before then. If you did play that Iron Fist, you can end up moving. You can also set up a Dagger for a move if they're already flooding the board. Otherwise, or you can do like a Human Torch plus a Ghost Spider. Any of these plays are perfectly fine and valid. I would tend to try and hold Dagger for later. I would generally rather play Human Torch first, because Human Torch can lead to a nice cheap bounce and gets nice and big, lane-winningly big, especially if you can throw a priority at the end. And the other card, and Vulture is the other card I like growing early. Vulture just gets big fast. Dagger can get big enough with 1 or 2 moves at the end of the game that you don't need to overplay her early or overplay her early. Vulture is generally the turn 3 play on Madam Web, is perfectly fine, right? If you have Hercules, though, you might want to just drop Herc first, because then you can punch Vulture into into Hercules. Hopefully it lands into web, or punch vulture into web, and then that's an 8 power vulture. Then you can throw it into Hercules, and you all of a sudden have an 18 power vulture. That seems like it's probably pretty good to me, at least in theory. You can, at this point, if you've gotten a couple moves, right? There's games where you see Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, and Human Torch all at the beginning. You can just bounce them on turn 3 perfectly fine. You can also just drop Hercules if you've dropped nothing else. A reasonable number of games that you don't see in my web. You don't do anything. You go pass Hercules, and then finally you can also just set up a move if you have a decent sized Human Torch. You can play Doctor Strange. So there's a million options here. Turn 4, you do basically the same thing as turn 3. Turn 5, you're trying to get a second move card going. So if you got Human Torch going, you want to bounce that and then start to get Vulture or Dagger going. If you got Vulture going, you want to start to get Human Torch going, etc., etc. And then you want to bounce the first mover so that you can replay it to end the game. Turn 6, you replay move and Sage or Shadow King. And then you win because your move cards are so freaking big. Don't feel like you have to move them, right? If you have like a 27 power Human Torch at the end of the game, and let your opponent guess where to Shang, right? Like, if they're Shang King mid and you don't move that Human Torch, that was right, then great. You didn't. It's not like you're running Heimdall. You just win the game. You get the extra cubes. That's how you play this list. This list is very hard to use, and it has a lot of bad locations, but it is a proven winner, and I think Madam Web is going to make it significantly easier to play. One last look at this list that I think is going to be a meta force. I don't know how this will not be a meta force and one of the best things to do in the entire game of Marvel Snap. Other decks we're going to look at. Doc D features Tuccrr's Symbiote Force. Tuccrr ended up in the top 10 with this Symbiote Force deck. I think that this is a really, really cool home for it because I can go, if I don't get my Phoenix Force going, I don't get my multiple man going, right? All right, so, well, thing I can do, I can Madam Web, multiple man, or Madam Web, Human Torch, and then Spider Symbiote in that lane. And if I get that Symbiote on Human Torch or multiple man, we're going to work, right? But the other thing I can do is I can Madam Web, and if I don't get my other stuff going, I can Shuri Nimrod. I can then move Nimrod out to a solo location to Arnim Zola. And that seems like it's probably incredibly powerful too. I think that this is going to be a force to be reckoned with. If you'd like more on this list, we featured it last week. Please do check it out. Then we have Rez Snapper, the other king of new Marvel Snap content. My wife makes random noises, please excuse me. The other king of new Marvel Snap card content, the other person who does really, really great stuff in that space, has a Mr. Negative Brew. I'm not sure if this works, but I'm curious enough to see if it does. Our friend Butt had a version of this at the start of last season that I thought was the most fun negative list I've ever played. I think that Second Dinner saw this list and nerfed Taskmaster to make this significantly less effective, but I am curious about it. I think that this version might end up wanting Wong and Sage, but that over Ironheart, but that's a concern for later. Right now, I just want to try this as is and see how it is. I do think there's going to be a negative deck that runs Madam Web, even if it's not exactly this one. Although Ravonna seems really, really good here with Dagger, Madam Web, Iron Man, Mystique, Ironheart, and Taskmaster. And, of course, negative. All right. Next up, we have the Jeet version of Phoenix Force. This list and the next list we're going to do a full guide of in tomorrow morning's video. So if you're interested in an absolute full guide of how to play this list without Madam Web, in case you don't get her, please check out tomorrow's video. Jeet is chilling around rank 7 in the world. He's previously finished number 2 in the world with Phoenix Force. He's the best Phoenix Force player on the planet. He created the Phoenix Force document over on the Lambie Discord if you're interested. But this is the Jeet Phoenix Force list. It is a top-notch, top-of-the-line Marvel Snap list that can win a ton of games. But this, like other move lists, is an expert list. I think it's easier to play now because, well, Hulkbuster and Symbiote Spider-Man, right, do the Human Torch thing on Madam Web and give you all sorts of extra power, extra ways to win with this list. If you can get one or both of those cards on multiple man, moving them around with Doctor Strange and Ghost Spider, and then Heimdall them, you've got a reasonable win condition there, outside of your Phoenix Force stuff, outside of your Nico stuff, so on. Nico and Symbiote Spider-Man also offer you, a 20 power Nico sometimes, so that's pretty damn sweet too. The other deck we're going to feature in tomorrow's video is the Woody move. This is fairly similar to the other. It goes a little more in on move and a little less in on bounce. I'm curious which version feels better. My guess is that I will like the bounce version better because I personally love bounce, but this does seem very, very strong. It is a very similar deck to the one we featured prior, so we're going to do another turn-by-turn guide for that tomorrow, just in case you want to go all in on move. You could even cut Beast from that version if that's what you wanted to do in favor of either Miles Morales or 2099. All right, final thoughts. Does MetaWeb look good? Almost every card they release is good. They seem to release one bad card a season, more or less, and even that's sort of debatable. Hulkling's not great. Fastos wasn't great, but almost every card they release ends up being a good card. This is going to go in every move deck, but maybe it's bad or move isn't meta. So we need to go over the rule of Thursday, Friday, Monday. This is not a special Monday. This is a regular old Monday. Sorry about that. So the rule of Thursday is on Thursday, this video, I will have asked about 10 to 15 top players. We're talking top of the infinite leaderboard players who influence the whole meta, what they think of this card. I will then present their arguments to you in Thursday's video. On Friday, I will synthesize those arguments with my own experiences and look at the data and stats for this card and give a recommendation for weekend missions. On Monday, much like we did with this exact in this exact video for last week's card, which was Silver Sable, I will give you a last chance review of the card. Good? Let's get more information before we spend resources, unless you're the type of person who gets every card. Wait and see until at least Friday, unless there's one of the other cards you need. But first, I'd like to tell you about the stream team. Our friends on the stream team will be playing these decks in their videos. Since Madam Web is not out, we're going to have to wait till tomorrow for these exact decks, where the great Prashaun will be checking out Madam Web with some of our brews. However, we have a second video out today, and at noon Eastern, Gregor2424 will be playing the decks from it. So if you're interested in checking that out, please do so. I think I'm going to release the new video with Gregor's stream. So you can literally watch the video and then go watch Gregor play the decks all in a row, which seems like a really cool way to check these out. Or at least I hope it's a really cool way to check these out. Let me know if you like this way of doing it, if you think this is cool. Also, let me know in the comments, dear viewer, as we start to get to Goliath, if you like the full deck guide for one of the decks in the new card video. All right, spotlight card is Goliath, 610, Series 5, 6,000 tokens. On reveal, remove the text from all the unrevealed enemy cards here. From all unrevealed enemy cards here, excuse me. This is a great card. It is a meta card. This is in an absolute ton of decks. If you have Wiccan or Arishem, you probably want Goliath. That's nice and simple, right? It doesn't go in a million other places, but Arishem decks love this. Every Arishem deck runs Goliath. They can cheat it out on turn 5 just because they have the extra energy, or they can play it on curve in order to shut down answers to their extremely powerful cards. Otherwise, phenomenal card, play Goliath. This is the current highest win rate Goliath deck, by the way. Next up, we have an Ika deck. We covered this one last week. Wiccan decks love Goliath. Pixie decks love Goliath. It is the best 6-drop that you can play on turn 6 in Marvel Snap, and thus it's in a bunch of decks. Nice and simple, right? Wiccan wants to play a 6 at the end of the game with other stuff. Goliath is the 6 it most wants to play, although there are other stuff options here. Then we have Safety Blades Cobra Kai. This is just another Wiccan list. This one's more mid-rangey, but again, I'm just trying to show you that Wiccan lists fundamentally always want Goliath. It is one of the key cards, and not always, I guess you can run Red Hulk, right? But it is one of the key cards for this particular archetype. If you're running Wiccan good stuff lists, you generally speaking want access to Goliath in your collection. So Arishem and Wiccan are the two main reasons to go out of your way to get Goliath. It is a great card in those decks. It's okay in some other decks. For example, here's one. This is a very, very good Goliath deck. It is a Thor's deck that runs Lockjaw from FAK Crazy, who had is a previous #1 player. This deck really works great, but do you need Goliath? He's a good card. Could it be Odin just fine? Probably. Could it be Red Hulk just fine? Probably. It's the Wiccan decks and the Arishem decks that I feel like must have him. One more Goliath deck, and I think you get the idea. Okay, I guess there's one other place you really need Goliath. You need Goliath if you want to play Galactus. So if you're going to play Galactus decks, please go get Goliath. Cool. If you the only way to play Galactus decks right now, I think, are generally speaking with Symbiote Spider-Man, because that 11 power Galactus is pretty damn powerful. It's disruptible, pretty damn powerful. If your opponent can't disrupt it, you often lose. Daredevil here gives you a lot of leeway into figuring out whether you can do the thing or not. And Goliath just says, once I have Galactus, I win. Or if I can't Galactus, I can stop my opponent from doing whatever other thing beats me. So again, wonderful in Galactus lists as well. So those are the situations where you should be looking into making Alioth a part of your collection in Marvel Snap. All right, next up we have the Spotlight card Silk. Silk is 2/5. After any card is played here, this moves to another location. Silk is a bad card. We're only going to look at one Silk deck. Silk has been power crept out of the meta. This was one of the better cards when it released over a year ago, and it's just been power crept away. Cards like Hydra Bob, which still doesn't see a ton of play, are just better. Why? 5 is great stats. We have 2s that just do way more than this. White Widow is a significantly better card than this. Kate Bishop is a significantly better card than this. You get the idea. All right, that's not it. I guess I didn't write the list down. Oopsie. It will be in the description to this video. Spoiler, the Silk list I was going to share with you is not a good list. Silk does not belong in Marvel Snap decks right now. You can throw her in a Darkhawk Stature Black Bolt list that runs Miles Morales. That's the list I wanted to show you, but that list is not good. All right, so for this, should you open this week? Alioth is great. He's the top 6 you can play on 6th. Mockingbird is a better card. And Sasquatch may go in more decks right now, but Alioth is, if you want to play 6 drops, the 6 drop you want. Silk needs a buff. She needs some kind of OTA work. We'll see about Thursday. Perhaps she gets an OTA buff. It wouldn't shock me to see her become a 2/6, at which point she becomes playable again, I think. Madam Web probably makes move meta or is completely mid and unplayable. So let's figure out which that is before we open. Again, Thursday, Friday, Monday, we will give you more information in each of those videos, but for the time being, wait until Friday unless you really want Alioth for one of those specific decks, whether it be Arishem or Wiccan decks. Then you can open now, get Madam Web, get Alioth, and you'll be perfectly happy. Cool? Cool. All right, we're actually going to skip questions of the day because we have a second video coming relatively soon. Instead, we're just going to go right to patreon.com/snapjudgments. Again, there's questions of the day in the second video, so don't stress. It's not like you're not getting questions today. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. I'd like to say thank you to Abigail Gieslin, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, Irregardless, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, Always Kind, LAB, FaThorNewman, hey, we saw his deck, Good Dog Gamer, Dios Vault, Inc., I Am Frostman, Jay Navarit, Corwin, Primed Ryan, Ryan Burke, Caretix Lee, Koi Ray, Black Dahlia, my current alliance leader, Pyro Froze, The Goat Seeker, Denman Falcon, Quid Pro Joe, Docty, the King of New Marvel Snap card content, Fat Nick, Ginger Prime, Ratko, Philip Rakovich, Haplo, Kenny frickin' Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, X-Force V and Skippy G, winner of Snapchat's League Season 1, Tommy Nyquist, The King of Bros, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Woody, Kev C. Hoda, Lunacris, Quantum Quinn, John Q, Clam, 8th Sage, Mod Supreme Models, Darth Tater, Joe P, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B, J. D. McDonaldinho, The Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrumix, Hoot, Matt H, DJ Mikey Hijinks, No Flex, Ocularis, Mr. Craig Sterry, Seamus, Jonesy, our friend from Teacher Two Ties, the great Lauren Medez, the Parry King Tuccrr, the Homie Man, and of course going to T, where the T stands for. If you want to know what the top decks are, check the link right below me. Hit that sub button. Deuces, don't forget, 2 videos today.